Hello soulmates, are you finding it difficult to draft a 3-part corset or a 2-part corset? On this tutorial, I'll be making it very simple for you, very beginner friendly. So let's get into it. So the first thing you need to do is to mark the points that you're going to work with. So the points you work with are from your shoulder to your chest line, from your shoulder to your bust point, and from your shoulder to your under bust, right? This tutorial is just to show you how to draft the cup part of a corset. I already have a tutorial on my channel on how to draft a full corset top, right? But I just want to show us the difference between the 2-part corset and the 3-part corset and how you can easily draft it on your own, okay? So, you first of all mark out your lines and then you label them. So I drew a straight line, that's for the center front. Then the first line is our over bust or chest line. Over bust or your chest line. Then the next line you have your bust line, okay? Your bust point. Then the third one you have your under bust line, okay? So now the next line you need to mark is your nipple to nipple line. That's your bust distance. So the bust distance I'll be working with is 4 inches. And then you mark it on the 3 lines and then connect it with a vertical line. Hope you understand up to this point. Now the next thing we're going to do after connecting it, since we want to make a corset, we will now get the distance from your bust point to your under bust. So the distance from bust point to under bust is 4 inches. Can you see? So you mark that 4 inches round in a circular form. So you place your tape on the midpoint, you place your tape on the bust point area. Can you see? Can you see how I'm doing it? Place your tape on the bust point area and just rotate it round to get a circle. Okay? So this is just what you're going to do round. Just be careful, right? And then you get your 4 inches. Remember, the 4 inches is the distance from your bust point to your under bust area. Okay, so I've gotten my circle now with dotted lines. I'm going to connect them. So if you can't make your perfect circle freehand like this, you can use your curved ruler to connect the dots. Okay, you can use your curved ruler to connect your dots so that your circle will be perfect to some extent. All right, so this is the next step. Now the next step we're going to do, since we are making a 3-part corset, is to impute our darts. Okay, so for our darts, for the under bust area, we're going to mark out 1 inch apart, 1 inch dart. Do you get? Our dart is going to be 1 inch. So you mark 1 inch on both sides of your under bust. Can you see? And then you connect that 1 inch to your bust point. Do you get? You connect the 1 inch to your bust point. This is our dart leg. Do you get? So the dart leg for the bottom part is 1 inch. Okay, now we'll go to the side. So that part, we're going to cut out that part. Okay, that's why I'm creating that dash line, right? So now we'll go to the sides. On the bust point part, you create your dart leg 1/2 inch apart, 1/2 inch on one side, 1/2 inch on the other side, and then you connect it to your bust point. Can you see? Then you do the same thing for the other parts. You do the same thing for the other parts of your circle. You remove 1/2 inch from one side and remove 1/2 inch from the other side for your dart leg. Can you see? And then you connect it to your bust point. So all your dart legs, make sure you're connecting them back to your bust point. Okay? So when you connect it to your bust point, this is how your pattern is going to look in the first instance. This is how your pattern is going to look. Remember, these dart legs, we are going to be cutting them out. So now let's work on the upper part. Now for the upper part, we're going to make the upper part to be 2 inches wide. So from your dart leg, do you get, on the center front, can you see, you mark 2 inches upwards. From that dart leg, you mark 2 inches upwards, right? Can you see what I'm doing? You mark 2 inches upwards and then you connect it. You draw a straight line. Can you see what I did? The line is a little bit slant, not completely straight. That's for your front part. Can you see the part of that leg that I connected? So you connect it upwards, then you draw your straight line, and then you determine from your center point up on your chest line, you connect that line. Can you see how I connected it? That's the next step. Then the last step we're going to do is by the side. Now remember that I always say when you're drafting your corset, the side of your corset is supposed to be wider, because when you look at your breast or your bust, you see that our side bust is fuller than our center bust. Right? Your side bust is fuller than your center bust. Okay, so you are going to come out by 1/2 inch at that part. Then you mark 2 inches upwards, and then you connect it back to the center, to the midpoint of your chest line. Can you see what I'm doing? So I marked 2 inches at the center front part, and I marked 2 inches also at the side front part of the corset. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? So now you can decide that you want that side part of yours to be either 2 inches or 2.5 inches or 3 inches. You want it to cover your bust area very well. Do you get? So you can make yours 2.5, as you can see, or you can make yours 3. Can you get? Do you understand? You can also make yours to go up to pass your chest line, so that when you're done drafting, you see that your corset is going to cover your breasts, for people that don't like their corset to be open. So this is how to draft your 3-part corset. Okay, hope you understand this part. Now I drew a straight line on the top part just to give us a direction. So you cut out the center line, and then you start cutting out all your darts, legs. Now at this point, if you look, you see that I labeled it. I labeled the first part, that's the upper part, the second part, and then the third part. You make sure that you label it, because if you don't label it, your corset has so many parts, you will get confused. Okay, so make sure you label the parts. So guys, if you have any question on this particular 3-part corset, let me know in the comment section. Okay, and please, if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please click on the subscription button. Guys, we are up to 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much to my subscribers. Thank you to my new subscribers. Thank you to my old subscribers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for interacting. I really do appreciate it. Shows that we are all learning a lot. Okay, and I'm not going to let you down. More tutorials coming in. Okay, so guys, I'm just taking my time to cut out the parts of our corset so that we'll see how it looks. So when your client comes for an outfit and your client is like, I want to make a corset, you can choose to ask your client, do you want a 3-part corset? Do you get? Or if your client tells you do anything you want, that's fine. But if your client gives you a picture of a 3-part corset, you don't need to reject that work. Okay, this is the simplest form of making your 3-part corset. Now there's something I want us to know about corset. Corset, you have to practice. If you don't practice, you will not get better. So I advise that you practice this, because when you practice, that's when you have your questions, and that's when you understand better. Many looking at it is simple. Yes, I simplified it, but you need to practice it. So I've cut out my dart legs. Okay, I'm going to show you how it's going to look. Also in this video, I'm going to teach you how to join your corset. Okay, the interfacing you need to use. So this particular tutorial is very packed with knowledge, so you need to watch up till the end. Okay, so now when you're done cutting it, you're going to see that your corset is in 3 parts. The upper part is the first part. The two lower parts are your second and your third parts. Can you see how it's looking? Now this is how to draft out your 3-part corset. So the next video that is going to pop up, I'm going to show you how to draft out your two cupped corset. So if you have any question for this particular type of corset, let me know in the comment section. So guys, now I've shown you how to draft out your 3-part corset. So let me just show you how to make the upper part, because if you're looking at it now, it's not giving you any corset look, right? So now I'm going to cut out that excess on the upper part. I just marked out that line just as a guidance. So in the first instance, this is how your corset is going to look first. So what you need to do is to cut out the center front and the side front. Now you can decide, as I said earlier, you can decide to increase the height of your corset by the side. Depends on your preference, okay? You can decide to also increase the height of your corset at the front area. Depends on your preference. All right? If it depends, you have to ask your clients, do you want your corset to be open? Do you want it to be closed? Depends. Do you understand? So, but just the simple part. Now, you see the center front, I cut it off. At that 2 inches that I went upwards at the center front for the corset, I cut it off at the center front. Then at the side front, I went up by 2.5 inches, and then I cut out the remaining part. Now, can you see that both the center front and the side front, they are all equal? When you place your corset, you see that they will sit perfectly on your center front and your side front. So this is how to draft your 3-part corset, okay? So now let's get into the drafting of the 2-part corset. You need your basic lines, your center front, your nipple to nipple line, your over bust or your chest line, your bust point line, and your under bust line. Okay, now the next thing you need to do is to mark out the distance from your bust point to your under bust, just as we did for the 3-part corset. So the distance from your bust point to your to the under bust is 4 inches. So I'm going to mark it right round in form of a circle. So if you want to draft out your own corset, right, these are the procedures that you need to take. But if you're a beginner, all right, and if you don't want to draft out your own corset, I have a class, an online corset class on how to draft and sew a simple basic corset with your bra cup, with your ready-made bra cup. That's the easiest type of corset you can come across with. Very simple, okay? So, but if you want to try this out, then you should watch the tutorial to the end. So now on your bust point, on your chest line or your over bust line, you're going to mark your darts 1 inch. I did 0.75 inch apart. Okay, I didn't want to do 1 inch. I just want to show us variations. Okay, so you can decide to do 1 inch. You can decide to do 0.75. Okay, but don't do 0.5. The dart will be too small. Okay, so on your over bust line and your under bust line, that's on the bust point line, right? You mark your darts 0.75 inches apart. Okay, can you see how I'm marking it? I've marked it on the top part and I've marked it on the bottom part. This is our 2-part corset, and then you cut out that leg. Can you see now? Can you see the difference between the 2-part and the 3-part corset? So it's basically finished. Now, as I said earlier, the side of our bust is always bigger. So whenever you're drafting your corset, make sure you add like 1/2 inch for that side to cover up your bust, your side bust that is fuller, right? Pause this video and look at your bust. You see that the side of your bust is fuller than the center of your bust. So to inculcate that side part, you need to add 1/2 inch on your bust area so that your corset can cover up your side bust, right? Guys, hope you understand this part, and then you just connect it like so to the original line. So the side bust is always bigger. All right, so if you don't add this 1/2 inch, you'll find out that by the side of your corset it will be too tight, or it's not going to cover your breast very well. All right, so we've expanded the side part of our corset and we are good to go. So now we're going to just cut out our darts. First thing, cut out that over bust line, your chest line. Just cut it out. Remember, that line is just like just our starting point. Do you get what I'm trying to say? That line is like a starting point. Now, if you want your corset to cover your over bust, you want your corset to cover your chest line to some extent, now you can draw that your semicircle line up to your overbust line. Can you see the line I'm creating? I left that overbust line, I went on top of it. So you can decide to curve your corset to pass your overbust line. Is that English correct? To extend your overbust line. So if your overbust line is 8 inches, right, and then you started your corset from that 8 inches, you can decide to extend your corset to 7 inches up, so 1 inch upwards, so that it will cover your what? Your cleavage. Do you get? So but if you don't want it to cover your cleavage, then it's fine. The original shape we did earlier is fine. Okay, so I just want to show us, if you want to cover your cleavage, how you are to do it, and if you don't want your cleavage showing, how you still have to do it. Okay, so now you're going to cut out your darts. All right, now while cutting, very important, make sure you label your patterns. Do you know why? If you look at this 2-part corset, you see that one side is wider, quite all right, but it can be confusing. And when you mistake the upper part from the lower part, your drafting is going to have an issue, your sewing is going to have an issue. So make sure you label the upper part, make sure you label it up, or whatever arrow you want to use. Make sure you label the lower part bottom or down. Do you understand? And make sure you know the part of your corset that is going to be connected to your center front and your side front. That's very, very important. So as you're drafting your corset, make sure you are labeling it immediately, so you won't get confused, because corset has so many patterns, and if you're not careful, you'll be confused with the patterns that you make for your corset. All right, so I'm done cutting the 2-part corset. Can you see the reason why we call it 2-part corset? Because it's just in 2 parts. Okay, the one we drafted earlier was in 3 parts, the upper part and the 2 bottom, but this one just has 2 parts. Can you see the center of the corset? Can you see how it's looking? Can you see that they're almost identical somehow? That's why you have to label it. So I'm going to label mine up, the upper part up, the bottom part down. So guys, if you have any question up to this point, let me know in the comment section, because we are going to be entering the sewing of this corset. Okay, we're almost done with this tutorial video. Okay, please, if this tutorial video is helpful up to this point, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe, guys. So I've cut out that upper part, we don't need it, right? Then the center front, you cut it out. Your center front, remember the way we cut it out for the 3-part corset. You just mark it out. Maybe you go from your bust point, right? You go up by 2 inches or 3 inches, and then you cut it out. All right, so this is your 2-part corset. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section, and I'll try my best to explain. So as you can see, I've drafted out the 2-part corset and 3-part corset. Now let's go into the sewing. Now for your corset, there are so many interfaces that you can use. You can use a strong, I think this is a strong gum stay, I can't really remember, or you can use a breast pad. You can also use shoulder pad. There's a shoulder pad foam that is really very soft. They call it shoulder pad foam. You can use it. Okay, but for this tutorial I have a breast pad, and that's what I'm going to use. So the first thing you need to do is to cut out your pattern on your breast pad. Okay, make sure you add your sewing allowance. Make sure you add the allowance. I didn't add allowance in this tutorial because I was trying to mice my material, especially my breast pad. So we all know that breast pad is very expensive now, so you have to be careful. So as we were saying, but that doesn't mean that you would not add your allowance when you are cutting your corset. So I've cut the corset, the upper part 1, part 2, and part 3. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the main the material I'm going to work with. You see, I've cut the same pattern for my material. So I have my breast pad and the material or the fabric that I'm working with. So I'm working with an Ankara fabric. Okay, so what you need to do is to match down your breast part to your Ankara fabric. You can decide to sew it, you can decide to iron it, depends on your preference. Okay, ironing is easier and faster, but if you don't have light, you can just sew it, you can just match it down. Okay, so now the next thing you're going to do now, earlier I said it's better you label your patterns, right? So I labeled my breast pad to show me the parts that I'm going to join together. So you first of all join part 2 to part 3. Can you see the bottom part? I've joined 2 and 3, right? And now that is the center point. I'm going to place it on part 1 like so, and then pin it. Do you get? I'm going to place it on part 1 like so. Can you see? Then pin that center point and then sew it right round. Okay, so when I'm done sewing, guys, this is our 3-part corset. Can you see how pointy it's looking? Can you see how lovely it's looking? Can you see how beautiful it is? Can you see the 3 parts, 2 bottom and the 1 on top? Can you see how beautiful it is? The breast part is even the best. See how lovely it is. Then you iron it, flat iron your seams. Okay, flat iron your seams. If you're going to use a lining, the same process you use for your main fabric, that's the same process you use for your lining. Okay, you can decide that maybe if yours is too thick, right, you might not put your breast pad on your lining. Okay, so that's for your 3-part corset. So now for your 2-part corset, I'm going to use a strong gum stay. No, this is not a gum stay. I forgot the name of this thing, but it's strong. Okay, now I'm labeling my 2-part corset because I don't want to get confused. I'm labeling the upper part and the bottom part. Okay, so I get my gum stay, and then I'm going to cut out the 2 parts separately for the gum stay, and I'm going to cut out the same thing for the fabric. All right, so as I earlier said, if you want to use a lining, you do the same thing you've done for your main material to your lining. Guys, hope we understand up to this point. Corsets are trending now, and it's almost the Christmas rush, and so many people will bring a corset for you to make. So you need to learn this. Okay, you need to know how to make a corset for yourself and for your clients. So I've cut my fabric and my gum stay and my hard gum stay. Now I'm going to match it down, or you're going to either match it down or you iron it, right? The shiny part is what you're going to place on the fabric, so you can iron it or you add your gum stay. Now remember to always label it. I can't overemphasize it. You have to label the upper part so you won't get confused, so you won't mix your patterns, please. So now I've matched it down. This is how it's looking. Can you see how it's looking? Can you see how it's looking? So now what you're going to do is to join the middle points together. So you flip it over like this, the 2 wrong sides like so, opposite, and then you pin it down and then you sew. You pin it down and then you sew the both of them together. Okay, can you see just take my lines, follow my lines. That's how you're going to sew it with 1/2 inch. Remember to add your sewing allowance. So when you are done, can you see how it's looking? You flat iron your seams, open it up and flat iron your seams. Can you see how it's looking? And then you open it up. So this is your 2-part 2-way corset. Can you see the side part? Can you see that the side part is broader, is bigger than the center part? So guys, this is the end of our tutorial, and I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. If it was, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Click on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I have new tutorials. Thank you to my subscribers, guys. Cheers to 2,000 subscribers, and see you on my next tutorial. Bye.